Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Sonic the Hedgehog 3, number 2 would be Mufasa the Lion King, number 3 would be Nosferatu, number 4 would be Wicked, and number 5 would be Moana 2. And Jesus fucking Christ, I got 1 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. Oh no. Man, I was so bummed seeing some of these results coming in, you know what I mean? And it was always something that I feel like in the back of my mind, like it's a possibility that this could happen, you know, but still, you know what I mean? It's heartbreaking news that number 1 this weekend was Mufasa the Lion King. For the first time, it became number 1 for the weekend results, beating Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Because the thing is, and we'll talk about Sonic in a bit, obviously, you know how the show works, but the thing about Sonic 3 is that, you know, it's been having some decent holdovers, like steadily kind of dropping off. Like, the first weekend it was about 30%, this weekend it's about 40, if I remember looking at that correctly. But the thing about Mufasa is that it opened, like, low, and then it held over really well. Like it kind of gained a percentage the second weekend it was released, and then this weekend it had a pretty steady drop off as well. So it just had a bit more of a stronger momentum here over the holiday season. So it made 23 million this weekend. So now that adds to a domestic total of 168 million. I'm still only going to compare the stats to the 2019 film because fuck you. I'm petty. Get over it. It still needs 375 million to outgross that film's run. Worldwide, it is sitting at 476, so they're well over the doubling point of their initial 200 million production budget. So the fact that they're also 24 million away from $500 million, I think at the very least shows that, yeah, it's going to break even. And I know I've been comparing this one to kind of like Aquaman 2 from last year, but I think actually, you know, Aquaman 2 maybe sort of kind of barely broke even. I think this one is going to get a little well over, if I'm, you know, breaking down the budgets correctly. And of course, you know, they never tell you everything. Sometimes, you know, they'll give you one budget number, but it's actually more. But I think this one is in a pretty decent position, it looks like. It's just when you compare it to the 2019 film, it doesn't look as strong or as good for them. And then looking at that worldwide comparison, it needs 1.185 billion until it outgrosses the 2019 film. So pretty much nothing has really changed as far as like, yeah, it'll probably still go on to do well and it'll just never outgross the 2019 one. Will this one continue to have any kind of like cultural relevancy or like kind of stronghold over the conversation in a major way? Probably not. It'll be just one of those confusing things forever. Like the 2019 one, just on a much smaller scale. So I feel like I'm not saying anything that we haven't already kind of covered. It's just the fact that it is number 1 now and that it is still kind of like holding on well enough. I don't know. It's kind of disappointing. I feel like I was definitely holding on to like an optimism of like, okay, good. Some people are like ready to move on from the I hate to use this term, but I think it does apply in this instance. Some people are ready to move on from the slop. And unfortunately, families are not. But number 2 is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Holding on, you know, still like we mentioned, it was having steady drop-offs. And it's not too far behind Mufasa. It made 21 million this weekend. So really not too far off. Like I said, it's just Mufasa just has a bit of a higher momentum right now. It is still very possible that these could continue to flip-flop. I don't know if they will. But it is still possible just because of how close they have been. If you look at the daily charts as well, like for a while, you know, Mufasa and Sonic were overtaking each other there. So, yeah, it's just, you know, luck of the draw. You know, this weekend is not Sonic's weekend. But, I mean, I think if you break it down, Sonic 3 will end up being more profitable and more celebrated than Mufasa, though. For example, in this instance, it made 21 million. It has jumped up to a domestic total of 187, so it finally outgrossed the first Sonic film by 41 million, and it's only behind Sonic the Hedgehog 2 now by 3, so it's going to be the highest grossing domestic run for the Sonic franchise. And then for video game domestic runs overall, it has leapfrogged up into the top 3, outgrossing the FNAF movie by 50 million, Detective Pikachu by 43, the original Sonic, like we mentioned, by 41, and Uncharted with Tom Holland by 39 million, and its competition now is, you know, getting that 3 million to outgross Sonic 2. But yeah, right now that places it in the top 3. So it's just, continuing to work its way up. It's not going to reach the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but when it gets that 3 million, it'll be right behind that. And I think that's just really incredible to see, just really impressive growth for this film. And that's just the domestic numbers. Worldwide, it is sitting at 336 million. So they are about 30 million away from tripling their 122 initial production budget. They're actually at a tripling point as opposed to Mufasa. They still have a little ways to go to get to that one. They're zeroing in on it, but, Sonic doing it faster is obviously, much more appreciated and celebrated and cool. It outgrossed the original film by 34 million. It's sitting behind 2 by 69. I remember a couple weeks ago where it was like, I don't know, it looks like Sonic 2 could be the big competition. It didn't have an opening weekend as big, but it's not too off target. But then, yeah, like we were kind of theorizing, over the holiday season, it just had, more people coming in. So that really is pretty much all there is to it. For the worldwide runs for video game films, it has outgrossed the Prince of Persia, Jake Gyllenhaal film by a couple 100,000, and it is behind the Angry Birds film, the first one, by 16 million. So it's in the top 8, number 8 spot. So not in the top 5 like the domestic runs, but the fact that it is still like going up there as well, it's just really cool, This one is, I don't know, the vibes with like Mufasa whenever I talk about that one is just kind of like dour, like, come on. But I don't know, Sonic is just like, made with so much love from a lot of fans behind the camera making those films and the actors being in it. Like you can just kind of feel like the excitement around that, and it does seem like this franchise does have like a lot of like genuine fans out there where these movies do kind of mean like the characterizations mean something to them. They love the comedy in them. It's just cooler to talk about Sonic, and Mufasa is just boring. Another thing that's cool to talk about, number 3, Nosferatu, holding over very well. About a 30% drop off from the 3-day weekend, making 13 million, adding to a domestic total of 69 million. Now for Robert Eggers, we already talked about last weekend how it outgrossed all of his domestic runs, so we're going to dive into some horror stats. It has outgrossed the entire domestic run for Smile 2 by 1 million, and it's only behind Longlegs by 5 million right now, so it is in the top 4 highest grossing horror films of the year domestically, and it's about to become the number 3. So that's, just to show you how well this has really taken off, there you go. Worldwide, it has crossed over the 100 million point, so it has doubled its initial production budget of 50 million. So a week ago when I was kind of comparing this one to, it could have a run similar to Garland's Civil War. I think it's actually kind of on track to outpace that one, which is really exciting, for me. For Eggers, it finally did outgross The Northman by 31 million, but then if you look at the horror stats, still has a little ways to go, but it outgrossed Eczema by 16 million, and it's behind Longlegs here by 25. So just, fucking Eggers, Focus Features, Nosferatu, killing it. And that's great, you know what I mean? And number 1 might have been a heartbreaking development, but 2 is still cool, and then this number 3 spot is also just really fun. But then we get into another flip-flop, which I feel like, we already had a flip-flop with these 2 films, so it doesn't hit as much as the current one that we just talked about. But number 4 is Moana 2, taking the lead over Wicked, after a while of getting their ass kicked by Wicked for a couple weekends. I still don't think it will have the momentum, at least as of right now, domestically, to overtake Wicked, especially because award season, Golden Globes are tonight. We're on the way for Oscar nominations next week or 2 weeks from now, however, whatever the schedule looks like for that. And Moana 2, is not going to get shit. I'm thinking. I don't even think any of their songs are going to be nominated, right? But Wicked, they can't nominate any of the songs because they're not original to the film. But the actors are up there. People are talking about them and the costume design, visual effects, and Best Picture. So this is going to be one that's going to be still talked about. So I just feel like the domestic numbers, I don't think Moana 2 has a chance of catching up, even though it did overtake it here. Anyway, sorry, long-winded. It made 12 million, adding to a domestic total of 425 for Disney Animation. It has outgrossed the first Frozen by 25 million, now needs 52 million until it outgrosses Frozen 2, so it is in the top 2 highest grossing runs for Disney Animation. Crazy to think, right? For the year 2024 domestically, it's behind Wicked by 25 million, as discussed, so it's still number 4. Worldwide, it is sitting at 960 million. So Moana 2 is on track of crossing $1 billion. So that would be another film hitting $1 billion behind Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. Right now, for the year 2024, it is only 9 million away until it outgrosses Despicable Me 4. And then, it'll already be in the top 3, but then once it hits that billion point, it'll be like, yeah, the top 3 are billion-dollar makers. So, it probably has the momentum to get there. We'll be seeing that happen. As far as Disney animation worldwide, needs 65 million until it outgrosses Zootopia. So it's also in a number 4 spot here. I think both of these will probably be happening. It's just, how fast will it take to get to both of those achievements, outgrossing Zootopia and hitting a billion. We'll see. We will see. Number 5 is Wicked, though. We should jump into that since we've been talking about it. Making 10 million, adding to a domestic total of 450. So yeah, 12 million, 10 million. Same thing as like Sonic and Mufasa, only a 2 mil difference on there. So they are still very neck and neck for all intents and purposes. For musical film domestic runs, it is still behind Frozen 2's by 27 million at this point. But like I said, because of the award season really getting into high gear soon, we'll see if, it gains some more momentum there to outgross it. For the year 2024, it is still behind Deadpool and Wolverine by 86 million, but it is still, number 3. Worldwide, it is sitting at 681 million. So for musicals, it has outgrossed Wonka by 56 million and Sing, Illumination's Sing by 50. It needs 115 million until it outgrosses Coco. So it is in the number 4 spot there. For the year of 2024, it needs 26 million until it outgrosses Dune 2. But right now it is number 6, but if it makes that 26 million soon, it'll be in the top 5. So on track to do great things, both of these movies, even though one is probably wildly better than the other. Which one is that one? I'll never tell. But if you watch both my videos and have been watching these ones, you can probably tell which one I mean. Number 6, let's just move right along. A Complete Unknown. We still don't have any worldwide totals to see if this is bumping up anywhere. And it held over solidly, but, it's also, a percentage compared to how much it made last weekend, which wasn't a whole lot. So it made 8 million this weekend, now adding to a domestic total of 41 million. For James Mangold, it did outgross Girl Interrupted by 13 million. It is sitting behind Copland now by only 3, so we'll be seeing it outgross that soon. But, with the budget still being, about 60 to 70 million and no worldwide totals to see if it bumps it up, it's just kind of looking like they might be fucked. I don't know, man. It's a good movie, I would recommend, but maybe it is just one of those things where some people are like, musician biopics, dime a dozen. I'm sure Timothée Chalamet is good in it, but, who cares? On to the next one. He'll probably still be nominated for an Oscar, and, people might be curious to still go check it out. If worldwide totals start coming in and it's like, oh my gosh, the Bob Dylan movie's the greatest hit that's unifying the whole world, people want to see this movie, then, that's a completely different story, and we'll talk about that. But, right now, it's kind of just floating. Notice how it didn't even really move its spot from last. I think it was also still at number 6 last weekend, so it's just kind of here. Number 7 is Baby Girl, making 4 million, adding to a domestic total of 16 million. So inching closer to the initial production budget of 20. They still have a long way to go until they get to the doubling point, and similar to A Complete Unknown, there's no worldwide totals, or at least not enough to significantly bump it up. But for the director, Helena, it outgrossed Bodies, Bodies, Bodies domestically by 5 million. And even though there is no official worldwide total for Baby Girl, if you take the domestic run for this and the worldwide total for Bodies, 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 Baby Girl has already outgrossed that by 2 million just domestically. So there you go. I hope to see more films from her. I'm a big fan of the director's last film, Bodies, 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 and I like this one. So, I'm looking forward to seeing more. Obviously, I wish this one kind of took off a little bit better, just because it is very modestly budgeted at 20 million. Like if you had a better marketing campaign, just something to get it out there more, to encourage more people to go check it out, then maybe you could have had a solid, not even really mid-budget, a little under a mid-budget hit, with the 20 million budget. It's no Bob Dylan budget right here, you know what I mean? Anyways, number 8 is Gladiator II, making 2.6, adding to a domestic total of 168 million. So it has finally outgrossed for Ridley Scott the Hannibal film by 3 million. It is now sitting behind the original Gladiator by 19 million, but it is Ridley Scott's top 3 highest grossing domestic runs. So The Martian, Gladiator, Gladiator 2. That's pretty fantastic, all things considered. Worldwide, it is sitting at 449 million, so not close to, getting to $500 million, which would probably be a pretty good place to be at. Not good enough if you think the budget is 300 million, which it might be, but it is only 2 million away until it outgrosses the original film's worldwide run, which, maybe that movie made more of a profit, but, it certainly looks good if you can say, overall, unadjusted for inflation, Gladiator 2 outgrossed the first movie. But, still, it's the same story with this one. Nobody really knows if this did well or not. You know what I mean? It's that thing, man. Ah, man. It's still here, though. You can at least give it that. It is still here. Number 9 is Homestead, making 2.1, adding to a domestic total of 17 million. For Angel Studios, it outgrossed After Death, Sound of Hope by 6 million, and then it outgrossed His Only Son, Bonhoeffer, and The Shift by 5 million. It needs 2 million until it outgrosses Cabrini. Is it a profit? I don't know, because there's still no budget. I'm going to assume, I haven't watched any trailer for this. I'm going to assume this is a low budget movie. So 17 million domestically, yeah, they're probably fine. Like, if I'm just going to guesstimate, knowing nothing about the movie, not seeing a trailer, any footage, maybe a 5 to 10 mil budget. So 17 million is, probably fine for them. I just don't care, and neither do you. Closing out the video, number 10, The Fire Inside. Still clinging on here. I still wish more people were seeing this one, though. This is a really strong movie, and man, for all the families that went out to go see Mufasa, I really think something like The Fire Inside would have been more rewarding. I just wish this one was doing better. It made 1.2, adding to a domestic total of 7.1. It is nowhere close to doubling its 12 million initial production budget, which is a bummer because similar to Baby Girl, I think if you had just gotten it out there a bit more marketing-wise, if the word of mouth was like strong enough to pierce through all this other noise about these other movies here, which, some of them I think I've made pretty clear. I'm glad that some of these bigger movies are doing well, like your Wickeds and Nosferatu and Sonic 3. Obviously, I want movies to still do well, even if I'm not necessarily a big fan of them. Because I'm still like, I want theaters to still be in business. Is it depressing if like a Mufasa, does well? Yeah, but as long as theaters are still, able to stay open and all that, then, happy endings all around, right? But that being said, something like this getting buried, I wish that wasn't happening, I feel like, you should give this a shot if you haven't seen it yet, and before it leaves theaters forever, obviously, since it's at number 10. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I'm actually going to go with Den of Thieves 2, Pantera, only because the first movie did solidly well, and I feel like, for January, we got a proper new release. It's not like The Damned, which is a new release, but barely anyone saw it this weekend. It didn't even crack the top 10. I think this one has a bit more of like, okay, action, Gerard Butler, and it's a sequel, and maybe they had seen it before, and if not, maybe this is something they can get caught up in. I don't think it will be any higher, as far as like opening weekends, I don't think it'll be any higher than what the first movie did, which was like about, what was it, like 15 to 20 million, I want to say. It was pretty low, I want to say. The overall domestic gross was pretty low, so I think it'll be enough to squeak by where we're at right now. And then number 2, I think, will be Mufasa the Lion King. Number 3, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Number 4, Better Man. I think there will be some curious people out there that will see it enough to get to number 4. I don't think this will be a big box office smash. It might be a little too weird for that. And then number 5, I think, will be Nosferatu. What are your predictions for next week's top 5, though? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.